RSN 927's Talking Horses with Joe McKinnon.
Jason Walsh, Godolphin's racing and bloodstock manager, our special guest on Talking Horses this week. How are you, Jason?
Very well, Joe. Thanks for having me this morning.
Congratulations to the team. Of course, Massa winning the Epsom Derby, which really heralds a new era for Godolphin.
Yeah, it does, Joe. Obviously, it's a hugely important race in the global industry and a hugely important race to our principal, Sheikh Mohammed. And for Massa to win that race is obviously a huge thrill for all involved. But I think it's also a great story in itself of Sheikh Mohammed's commitment to the bloodstock industry and his commitment and perseverance as a breeder himself. And I know a number of your listeners this morning are in that same endeavour of trying to produce champions. So there's no one more deserving than Sheikh Mohammed in that sense. And Massa is, he's a result of 7 generations and nearly 40 years of persistence in that regard. So it's given the team a great boost.
Yes, he's a homebred by New Approach, a son of Galileo, of course, and he won the race at reasonable odds too, Jason. Around 16-1 was his starting price.
He did, yeah. He'd run really well for third in the 2,000 guineas, and I know that Charlie Appleby, his trainer, had no concerns about him stepping out to a mile and a half, and he was quite dominant on the day. So, as I say, it's a really interesting. He's got a great pedigree for a horse to win a derby. He's inbred to a superior mare in Urban Sea, who's a dam of Galileo and See the Stars. So it's a really interesting pedigree. As I say, a great result for His Highness Sheikh Mohammed, and no one more deserving.
What would the likely plan then be beyond the derby for a horse like Massa? How much longer would we likely see him gracing the racetrack?
Well, look, that'll be a decision taken by His Highness ultimately, and I'm sure Charlie will make recommendations in that regard. I know that in the short term they'd given consideration to perhaps an Irish derby with him, but they've since elected to target the Eclipse back to a mile and a quarter. He's shown himself to be a high-class horse, and I'm sure that Charlie and Sheikh Mohammed will place him to advantage, and that'll be really interesting to watch his progress for the rest of this year and perhaps beyond that.
Indeed it will. And on the local front, you've been busy this week inspecting the Weanling crop of horses that will of course be 2-year-olds come August 1, 2019. Were there many that caught your eye at this early stage of their development? Yeah,
look, Joe, we've commenced our Weanling inspections this week, which we do try and achieve on a monthly basis. They're a really exciting group of young horses, particularly, I think, in addition to our older proven champion horses like Exceed and Excel and Lonro, there's a really broad range of young size represented too, and looking at horses like Exosphere and Kermit with their first foals on the ground. I know the team are particularly excited by them, and we've got some really well-bred horses in that regard that nice physicals as well. So in addition to our own homebred population, the ability to see young weanlings by those horses at the weanling sales this year has been really exciting.
The weanling stage of development is so important as they develop into yearlings and then beyond that fully grown race horses. Are there some particular processes and management things that you have in place to look after this young crop of horses?
Yeah, so from the time they're born, we have we try and devise an exhaustive development program that gives each individual horse the opportunity to reach their potential ultimately on the race course. And at Godolphin, that's largely centred around just letting the animal be natural in its environment and be happy as a horse fundamentally. We don't have the pressure, of course, of having to prepare horses for a sale. So that gives us a bit of room and leeway in that regard, that there's in no way is there any pressure ever placed on the individual, and we just manage them all accordingly. They all have their inherent individual traits, as we know, so it's just trying to ensure that each horse develops in a way that allows it to reach its potential.
And how's the current yearling crop looking at this stage, Jason? Of course, they turn 2 pretty soon. Are you excited at some of the prospects there?
Yeah, there's no question. It's a great time of year, this show, particularly that yearling group in particular. They've been through the stable. The more precocious ones are in for their 3rd time at the moment, and we're just sort of about to settle on Golden Slipper and Blue Diamond nominations and sort of filtering out groups to see which ones are likely to be ready for the early trials and first stakes races of the season. So at this stage, the dreams are very much alive. Individually at Godolphin, we think we've got a very strong crop again this year in the yearling sense, and as I said again, with a broad range of stallions represented and supplementing those older horses we talked about that we know are champions, like Exceed and Excel and Lonro. We've also got the first crops of Brazen Bow, Hallowed Crown and Shooting to Win, which, as I say, just that air of uncertainty and excitement around what those horses could potentially throw for us with their progeny in the system. It just gives everyone a boost again through the colder months of winter.
What are some of the key and typical attributes of the Brazen Bows, the Shooting to Wins and Hallowed Crowns that you've seen, Jason?
Well, they're all a bit different, Joe. As you know, we were back in the yearling market in a big way this year, purchasing 20 all up, and we were fortunate enough to secure horses by all of those stallions. Shooting to Win, we managed numerically to take the most home. We ended up buying 5 yearlings to supplement our own homebreds. What I'd say about his stock is that they tend to be very athletic. They're certainly showing us in the early part of their education that they're quite precocious, and we've got some really well-bred horses. We bought a beautiful filly on the Gold Coast, half sister to Faulkner. So there's some really strong pedigrees to back them up. But he's Shooting to Win's a horse that we found relatively easy to breed in that he throws correct horses, much in his own style with plenty of substance and good quality. So we're very excited about him. And perhaps the other thing I'd say is that of those yearlings that went through the system, we know that they're placed with all the top trainers around the country. So we're really excited about the opportunity that should afford him.
Your role at this time of the year, Jason, it could be likened to that of someone prospecting for gold, casting an eye over all these young horses to see where they might end up.
Yeah, which is a very fortunate position to be in at Godolphin, performing that role for Sheikh Mohammed. And we as a team, we very much approach it on that basis. We're searching for that next champion for Sheikh Mohammed. It's hugely exciting, of course, to work with bloodstock of the quality that we do. Brazen Bow's a horse that we're hugely excited about as well. We've got 2 colts. One's a half-brother to Astern and Alizé, and the other a half-brother to Osborne Bulls that, we could hardly be more excited about. And Hallowed Crown himself, another horse that, we found plenty at the yearling sales that we liked. We managed to take 2 home, and one of those, a colt we bought on the Gold Coast from Glen Logan Park, out of a mare called Johanna Dark. He looks like he could be a particularly exciting prospect for us, in addition to some really well-bred homebreds as well. So look, he's a horse that, again, has great quality, and perhaps the most exciting thing about him is that, much like himself, they're expected to come into their own at 3. So the fact that they are showing as much as they are in this early part of their education gives us huge reason to be really optimistic about his future as well.
Jason, you must really enjoy your job.
That's great, Joe. Absolutely, yeah. Like all of us here at Godolphin, we're privileged not only to work with the calibre of horses and people that we have, but to do it with the backing of a man like Sheikh Mohammed. As I mentioned, that success, the Epsom Derby, it cannot be overstated how important that is, not only for him, but it gives the local Australian team a great inspiration, as we approach the upcoming spring. And we're very much a global organisation, and I can assure you that the local team got a huge buzz out of his success, and we hope to deliver on some of our own coming out for the latter part of the year.
Jason, thanks for joining us on Talking Horses and sharing your fascinating insights.
No problem at all, Joe, anytime.
That's Jason Walsh, Godolphin Racing and Bloodstock Manager. Great to hear his perspective, particularly on the weanling crop that he inspected this week and some of the expectations around the current group of yearlings. There could be another major race winner amongst them. We'll be back with more on the show after this. After this.